All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Jumpstart 2023 Fresh Marketing Ideas. The goal of this webinar is to start the new year with fresh marketing ideas for your business and join us in discussing the latest trends, strategies. We have two expert panelists that will cover a range of topics, including social media marketing, email marketing, and more. We have David Lee, who is the business and marketing expert, CEO of David Lee Consulting. And we have Ada, who is the co-founder and managing partner of New Media Holdings, LLC. I'd like to actually share a little bit about who they are, so that way you all can be more informed. David is an experienced business consultant, creative producer, digital marketer. He's driven by data and insights. He takes pride in providing creative and meaningful solutions for clients. His goals include finding the right solutions for his clients, making sure they're using the right resources, and being able to provide a return on your investment. He's actually part of our US PAC Northeast business consultant team. So please welcome David. And if you are interested in one-on-one counseling, we'll go more into that later, but that is something that he provides. Ada is a New York-based female entrepreneur, co-founder and CEO of New Media and NXT Factor. She's a self-taught entrepreneur and an empowered social activist. She's harmonizing philanthropy, entrepreneurial innovation, and it's never felt more important than today. So we're excited about what Ada's bringing to the table here. For her, empowering women and enabling their growth through digital marketing agency has always been at the top of her checklist. She defies the odds as an innovative young female entrepreneur in the digital industry. So we're very excited to have both Ada and David, and we're actually going to be letting more folks in. So bear with me here. Great. So welcome everyone. I'm the program manager of the US PAC Northeast CNPP program. This webinar and event is powered by the SBA, the Small Business Association, and it's the Community Navigator Pilot Program. And we've collaborated with New Media here to provide this expert panel and topic here today. So I'm going to go ahead and move into
the light on.
Yes, and if you could also please just put yourself on mute just so that we can make sure that there's no confusion as to where the audio is coming from. So here's the lovely slide that New Media created for us, showing you who our presenters are. And this will also be provided for anyone who has access to this. We will give you a link to the recording. So we have a few questions, and we're going to ask these questions. And what I will ask is, Ada or David, can you please answer? So the first question is, as marketing professionals yourselves, how have you seen the marketing industry evolve throughout the years, especially going into the new year? What changes in the marketing industry, if any, are you anticipating? Ada.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Mary Jo. So hi guys, it's Ada here. For the first question, I thought into it. I think for me as a business owner, I definitely, as a marketing professional, I definitely at the beginning of the year, I took my time to really look at what are some of the trends, right? How the platform's changing. But I think going to a new year, the marketing industry itself is going to get more streamlined and more standardized. The industry we're in is quite new, so a lot of different things are always changing. But I think as we get to know the industry more, as more businesses start to pick up on it, the process of or the services will be more standardized, and the cost of doing digital marketing would be more standardized or more cost effective as well. The last thing would be, I think every business, either being new or being old, would attempt to have a brand or have a presence online. The ones that are not trying will slowly die out. So if you're someone that's starting a new business, definitely make sure you're online.
Thank you, Ada. David,
Yeah.
did you have anything that you can add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree and align with Ada. A lot of those things you see is like the growing trend for small businesses as well as corporations. You guys might have heard of Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Streamlining your marketing process as business owners or as entrepreneurs, as marketers, we're always finding the most efficient way and most effective way to, send out marketing. So one of the things like technology is always going to be evolving. So I think a lot of small businesses are trying to be crafty and finding ways, right? Because they don't have the budget as big corporations do. But big corporations are also looking ways to enhance like their budgets, right? Enhancing meaning like how do we do more with the same budget? So some of the corporate clients, that I work with, they are always saying like, hey, last year's budget is the same for this year, but we are looking to do maybe 1.5x of what we did last year. And now we have to get like marketing professionals have to get a little bit crafty on, okay, how do we do that? Are we utilizing technology? Are we, with the emerging trend of remote workers, I find that a lot of businesses now can hire people and maybe where the cost of living is much lower. So, for example, a New York City business could potentially hire somebody from Florida or maybe from Ohio and pay a little bit less with a similar or greater quality of work. This is from like graphic designers to copywriters to strategy professionals. So yeah, I think that's the growing trend I see so far from like even just in the last couple of years to this year.
Hmm. Interesting. And as we go through these questions too, if anyone in the room has some questions, we'll have a Q&A portion. So definitely hold on to those questions. Both with successful careers within an ever-changing market, how have you found consistency within what you do and the services you provide? And David, would you be able to start this off?
Yeah, for sure. Consistency is like one of the big benefit for any business. When you have clients that are depending on you to, help them with their marketing. For me, this my point of view is to have that strong foundation. So not relying on just whatever is changing. You know that changes are always going to happen, right? External factors. A platform change. Facebook makes a new, algorithm update, or there's a new device, or there's a new trend. Our foundation has always been okay. What is the strategy and what are the goals, and how do we execute that? Has always been able to relay what we can do for clients as well as like how do we connect with consumers, right? Because of all those changing factors, but everything that is constant is really like your strategy, your goal settings, and then the resources that you use. So when we approach any new project, we always kind of look at through that kind of lens of, all right, the tried and true strategies, but then we're plug and playing with external factors like technology or a growing trend. How do we utilize those things to make better creative or, developing a new marketing program for a client? So yeah, that's one of the things that I can stay consistent with a lot of the different projects or even clients coming on board. And they say, hey, look, my business is in this situation and this is a growing trend and I want to capitalize on it or I want to prepare for it because they know in this year or next year, they want to do something different. And, with our strategy, with our resources, we're able to kind of consistently deliver on that.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Ada.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of things David just mentioned. How I understood the question was how do we stay consistent, right? Even when the market, the industry we're in is ever changing. I think one of the main reasons why I even got into the industry is because how ever-changing the market is. I've always been someone that likes new things. So being in this market is very exciting for me. But I think there's a couple of things. One is just, stay up to date, right? We internally, our team members subscribe to a lot of newsletters that talk about the updates. Just the other day, one of our team members brought up about Instagram changes. I know many of you noticed over the last year, Instagram has been trying to copy TikTok, but the chief of Instagram just said that going into 2023, that's no longer the case. He publicly said that he felt like Instagram kind of lost their identity over the past year. So they want to go back to their roots, and the platform will still be a place that showcases photos as well as videos. And that tells us as marketers a lot, because they're the one that's controlling where the traffic is going, what people are seeing, right? So when that happens, we definitely have to be on the lookout. And another thing for us, or for me and my team, is to always know what I'm best at and what we specialize in. At New Media, we stick to our niche. Those are, food and beverage, beauty, professional services. And when you're so specialized in your own areas, you know exactly what's going on, and you could implement those right away and benefit your clients. And yeah, that's kind of all I gotta say. And is there anything else you want to add, David?
Yeah, sorry, I had a slight internet connection issue, but I believe we're on question 3 now, right? For strategy.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
Wait, I don't think Mary Jo has asked the question yet.
Right, we're
Sorry.
still on question 2. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
We're still on question 2, but if there was anything that you wanted to add after what Ada said.
Yeah, I agree. I think for what I've heard so far in regards to their strategy and staying consistent with their company and how they deal with clients, align with those items.
Especially like consistency, it's such an important question, because that is the key to a lot when it comes to marketing, I would guess, right? So whatever niche you've found, you have to figure out how to be consistent in that niche. So yeah, this is a great important question, and I hope we get questions from the group later. So for question 3, for business owners just starting their marketing strategies and 2023 goals, how do you suggest they begin forming and finalizing these strategies?
I'll go.
Yeah, Ada.
Yeah, I'll go. So I think this process is always going to be the same, whether you're, an existing business or a new business. Knowing your brand and knowing who you are and what your target audience is step number 1. Once you figure that out, then you could choose a platform where your target audience sees. Let's say your audience are younger kids, then you want to stick with TikTok. So after you've determined your target audience, you choose a platform, and then after that, you come up with a budget. And I broke it down to 3 budgets that fit different types of businesses. The type number 1 is do it yourself, DIY, right? A lot of smaller business owners, when they start their business, they don't have any budget. They haven't made any revenue. So what that basically means is you should learn how to do it on your own with free resources that are available to you. And there are a lot, right? And New Media and David as well, we both offer one-on-one consultation services. With New Media, you'll be paired up with, through the CMPP program, you'll be paired up with a marketing specialist. And during a 1 to 2 hour consultation, they'll walk you even prior to that, they'll do a deck that's customized to your own brand. And during the consultation, they'll walk you through the deck and basically give you the tools and everything you need to get started on your social media campaigns. And your second option would be to hire someone fresh out of college or still in college that's studying in a relevant field. Those people would normally be eager to start building out their portfolio. So they will take, like either a few $100s or, just a lower cost than a professional team. And if you have a higher budget, let's say you're already going into the business, you already raised funding. Now I recommend working with a professional team that specialize in your industry, because that'll help you jumpstart your marketing campaigns and will definitely give you a better ROI. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. David.
Oh yeah. No, that's all great valid points for, forming and finalizing strategies. And I could take a little bit further. In marketing, we always look at like the 4 Ps, right? So that can kind of really help you with your overall business strategy and as well as how to market your product or your service. For those who need the reminder, 4 Ps are just like, your product, your price, the people that you're targeting, and then where you're targeting the place. So typically, like, with every new project, we always kind of sit down and say, like, lay everything out on the table. Like, what are your resources? What are we capable of, right? Whether you're doing a DIY or you're hiring someone who's straight out of college or even hiring professionals, you want to make sure you have the right professionals helping you, right? Are they an SEO person? Are they website? Are they, digital marketer? Because in marketing in general, that's such a wide, like segment of your business, right? So you want to make sure where you want to focus on. Like, are you focusing on acquisition or retention or just trying to enhance your brand through the market space? So I would say in the beginning, definitely, sit down, whether you have your own team or connect with somebody on CMPP, like Ada or myself, we will work with you to kind of at least organize your thoughts and say, okay, these are the things you need to kind of look out for or need to execute on. Because without a plan in place, it's very kind of difficult to pinpoint your goals as well as doing the execution and then seeing, wait, how does that tie to my goal or how's that increasing my business revenue? So, when you're forming your strategy, always get all the players in the room, devise your strategy, and then make sure you have ways to track those goals as you're executing your marketing plan.
Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So our next question is, if business owners are starting out and only able to focus on one social media platform, which, if any, do you suggest they start with? And in other words, if slow and steady is really the way to go, what's their first step they should take for social media marketing? Ada?
Yes. For this question, I want to kind of go back to question number 3. It really depends. Because there's so many different types of businesses, right? For my bread and butter restaurants, I wouldn't say, hey, go to Instagram or Facebook right away if you're asking for just one platform, because you do have a physical location and you get walk-in traffic. So that already says a lot versus an e-com where you're a ghost if you don't have a website, right? So it really depends, but you got to know what I think the best way is to see what your competitor is doing in your area and see if they're successful in the existing marketing campaigns and figure out what makes you stand out, and dependent on your location, target audience, and the target audience age group, gender, and income, then you could better determine which social media platform. But for restaurants, businesses at physical locations, I'll definitely say Yelp or Google. I'll say Google, really, because everybody uses Google before they go anywhere. I don't think they leave their house unless they know, okay, this laundromat is definitely on that street because it says on Google Maps. So yeah.
Awesome. David?
Yeah, I love that answer because a lot of times with marketing professionals, people want that silver bullet. And this is where the question kind of lies. Like, they want you to have one channel that kind of defeats them all. like, and that's where I kind of focused when I saw this question is like, okay, if you're putting a gun to my head and it's like, okay, pick one social media platform and that's all you can do. And and it definitely varies, right? Ada had it right. Like if you have a service business, certain channels, there's certain preferences and better ways to kind of display your business that way. If you're an artist or you're a photographer, obviously, more of the visual base, like an Instagram or maybe a TikTok would help you kind of reach as well as build the awareness of what you do online. But I think if I had to pick one, where, it's kind of low budget, something that you can start slow, and something that can really, help you with a couple of things, I would probably try to pinpoint like YouTube. To Ada's point, like YouTube is made by Google. So a lot of your searches or your search engine results are going to be preferred with Google platforms. So, and then video, I mean, this has been like almost like every marketing reports like trend that like small businesses or corporations should have a video kind of component as part of their marketing plan, due to the fact that like, if a picture can say something in 1,000 words, a video is probably 1,000,000 times that, right? So whether you're selling a service or a product, you can really enhance like your audience like understanding of what you offer through video, right? Even if you were to do a video once per month to showcase it might be a restaurant, it might be a e-commerce site, but there's a lot of ways around of producing content, putting it out there and getting it searchable. And if it's not YouTube, and I know a lot of people are like kind of afraid of creating video content and putting it out there, the other thing too, I think Ada was like alluding to was like Google My Business pages. So that's like kind of essentially, if the folks in the room remember Yellow Pages, but like on steroids. So anytime you're searching for a brick and mortar, a retail store, you show up on Google Maps. But like what Google My Business page does is really creates like a social profile of your business. So you can really share videos, photos, menu items, your staff. If you have special events, you can highlight those through your Google My Business page, which is an extension of your Google Maps listing. So I think those two, if you had to choose one, if not YouTube, it would be Google My Business. Sorry, it's a long-winded answer.
Yeah,
but...
no, I totally agree, David, because I don't know if some of you have noticed, but Google My Business has expanded their sections to almost create another social media platform. For marketers like us, it's just more work, but it's great for business owners because now they have a section. If you keep scrolling down, it shows better on a web on Safari, on the web, on the computer screen. There's places where you could see social media posts and it's displayed right under your I'm looking at it now, right under your reviews.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is great. How does one measure success within their marketing efforts? How do you know when to switch up, how to go about your marketing strategies? Sorry, third part of it. How do you recognize when these strategies are going as best as they can? Ada.
Yes, yeah. I want to start by saying, for those of you that are looking to start a campaign, please be patient. Because it can take weeks or even months for see major changes in your business when you launch a campaign. But for some with bigger budgets, or if your product really fits, it really hits the market, or it's so unique in a sense that nobody else has done it and it's a brilliant idea, then it'll be different, right? I'm talking on average. It normally takes weeks or months to see some major changes. So how do we measure how do we measure success within the marketing efforts? It depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to get more brand awareness, you're trying to get more people to see your brand, know who you are, then we look at impressions. We look at all the campaigns being both organic and paid, and see how many impressions you made through the efforts that have been made. If you're looking at conversions, if let's say you're selling socks, you look at how many pairs of socks you sold. So that's pretty straightforward. Basically what it is return on your investment. And for businesses that are more traditional, like the restaurants, I think going to 2023, we're going to get more resources that allow us to track these campaigns better. But for the longest time, businesses like the restaurants struggle the most with tracking their marketing efforts. What we do with our existing, a lot of our clients, is just to ask service to give out surveys. On the bottom, you just ask them, where did you hear about us, right? That's pretty straightforward. And for e-com, definitely implement pixels. That could be done easily if you have a simple landing page. And for companies that have been running campaigns over 6 months, but business still the same, 6 months or even a year, and no changes have been seen, then you should look into other problems. Is your pricing too high? Are you not targeting the right people? Or is your product just unfit for the market? So start to question that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ada. David.
Yeah. Again, in line with what Ada said, it really depends, right? How you're tracking your KPIs. I'll go into a little bit of the geeky side of the technology to make sure that, you map it out beforehand, how you are going to track your KPIs, your goals, right? KPIs are just key performance indexes, right? So if you're utilizing any like social media channel, of course, they have the analytics side, the metrics on the back end. It will show you like, oh, people clicking on it, engaging on it, give you percentages and stuff like that. If you're running like an email campaign, again, utilize a tool like, Constant Contact is a great way to track the clicks and where people are going. And then obviously on your own website, there's, tools like Google Analytics, which is free, to let you know, hey, you created this page. This is how many people are staying on the page, how many people are clicking on it. This all, like, if you laid it out in front of you as your kind of digital marketing dashboard, and you can pick and choose how you want to measure it and what is success, and how you build benchmark. A lot of times clients say, well, what do I know is good or bad or whatnot? Like, both Ada and I have been doing this for a very long time. So we have industry specific kind of benchmarks, right? And we will let you know, like, oh, if you're running an email campaign, for this type of business, with this type of goal in mind, you are either, on track to be meeting that goal, or let you know the benchmark is like, oh, the open rate is 10%, right? Is a good number to kind of set as a benchmark. And then, you would fluctuate your campaign or your strategy as such so that you can either hit that target or surpass it. When you're doing these type of strategies or like measuring, it's based on like, I group them into 4 things, right? Awareness, conversion, engagement, and just overall development, right? Development is the one where we're not really kind of setting any particular goal in mind. It's just okay, we're developing our audience or developing our brand, and let's see with this new idea, how is the market reacting to it? So it's kind of like a new territory. Obviously, Ada touched upon this, like the awareness side of it would be more of like your overall views and your impressions, and then conversions are how many people signing up to your online program or buying your product or signing up for email, right? And then overall engagement on social is like comments, likes, even like subscription could be a way of measuring engagement. So like, depending on those components, where do you put your importance? Where do you put, most of your resources, so that you make sure that you're measuring properly? And also when you hit those goals, now what, right? So afterwards, once you hit those goals, it's kind of like, all right, do we want to maintain it, or do we want to continue to reach higher levels? So those are all kind of questions and, items that you have to kind of like strategize and then build upon and then track.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for answering. So we're actually going to go into a Q&A portion. I want to prioritize any questions that might come from the folks in the room that are here. I am actually going to stop sharing my screen. Let's actually stop real quick just so that we can all kind of, familiarize ourselves with each other. And I'll go back to the screen when we hit the next portion of our webinar event. But does anyone have any questions in regards to what was mentioned or any questions that may come up right now? Anything relevant to your business, your idea, whether you're service or product oriented. So yeah, if you want to type it up in the chat and then I can just read it as well. Giuliano said, is asking how important is it to create a strong brand in today's marketing world? And what are some tips for creating a good brand that will stand out from the others?
Nice question. Okay, I can take it away if you don't mind. I'll go first. I get this question a lot. Actually, last year, I was working with an individual who was developing a brand new product, brand new brand, everything in that regard. I think our favorite phrase of the night is going to be, it depends. It depends on what kind of business and product you have, right? So at the end of the day, if your strategy is, hey, I want to make money and then I'm just going to exit out, right? Then the brand is not as important as the user experience of purchasing that product or service, if that makes any sense. And then also, I mean, I come from an immigrant family-owned business, right? These are folks that never really build a brand per se. They just offered a service and then continued forth. And people just said, oh yeah, go to that Chinese restaurant that's on, 14th and 7th. And they don't even remember the name, right? But they know that it's a staple of that neighborhood because it was the only one there. So given what I said there, brand is important. However, it depends on your strategy and what your plan with the business, right? If you're looking for, hey, I want to compete with Google, or I want to compete with, whatever, whether it's music, food, or whatever it may be, then yes, that is a critical part of your marketing plan, is like, okay, and it's not just having a logo or a really cool business name or company name. It's like, there's a lot of different components to it. It's the promise that you have for your audience or your consumer when they say your name or just engage with you, right? So at the end of the day, you do need to create a brand if you want long-term longevity, right? Because whether you're one product or you have a whole product line, you're a big, retailer, people need to know, like, what are they getting with this company, right? So if you can build that brand, then you can sustain all the different changes that we mentioned about market changes, trends, and this and that. Like, just look at any of the popular brands out there, right? Coca-Cola, Google, these guys all sustain through, multiple recessions, crazy, market changes and stuff. But people still, oh, I remember Google. Oh, I know Coca-Cola because they're a beverage company and they, do really well in that. So, yeah, I would say branding is important, but it really depends on what kind of business you want to build and then how to fully extend that out for a long-term strategy.
Yeah, to build off of that, I do think branding is so important. And I think what Giuliano meant by saying branding is what you stand for and almost like a slogan, right? Let's say we could have two restaurants, but your story would draw me in more because I feel like I'm more relatable to your culture or like just other factors about who you are as a brand. In terms of execution, like how do you get people to know who you are, right? And that's a lot of times what we do as marketers. We have to be able to learn quickly what you're trying to say and present it in a way where that is marketable. I break it down to 3 forms, and that's pretty easy. First one's video, the second one's text, and 3 is audio. So figure out what channel you're going to use. If you're stronger in audio, then start a podcast. If you want, if you're more expressive in text, then start a blog. And if you're really good on camera, then choose video because people love videos.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for that question. There's also another one from Nicole. David, you mentioned YouTube being good for SEO. If we don't have a high budget for video production, should we still upload videos on YouTube? And do they need to include people in it, or can it just be the products on the show?
Awesome. Thank you for that. So yeah, Nicole, honestly, if you think of all the big influencers on YouTube, they all started with really low budgets. Oddly enough, I think last year I was watching the documentary on Mr. Beast, which is one of the highest like subscribed YouTubers out there. So if you saw like his first year content, it was all done through either iPhone 3, I believe. Like that's the first iPhone that came out to market, and then it was like a camcorder, like one of those cheap, $100 to $200 camcorders. Now most people these days, even like for Casey Neistat, who just came back on YouTube recently, they all kind of film on GoPros and also their cell phone, right? So if you have one of the latest like iPhone 12, 13, or even 14, like the quality there is good enough. It's for YouTube like kind of consumption. Like most of the phones these days also shoot in 4K if you need that additional quality. But again, the production there is not much. I find it's not so much of the production side of things, but the people's mentality around putting themselves out there on video, because again, it's the internet and it's forever. So people do get a little bit nervous and saying, oh God, I'm putting this video out there, and what if people don't like it, or people like, if it doesn't do well. I think being consistent and always just follow through. Like, doesn't matter if it doesn't perform or it does perform. I mean, I work with one client who she consistently is producing 1 video per week, whether she wants to or not, whether it performs or not. She just knows, okay, every day on Monday, I'm releasing this video out into the world. And, and she follows all the kind of like, oh, you need to have a good thumbnail. You need to have this, you need to have that. Like all the right ingredients are there, and she's cooking up this recipe and she's sending it out into the world every Monday. So, some do a great job to get thousands of views, right? And you just don't know. Like, you won't know until like a month later or 6 months later, because sometimes her videos gets picked up by like media, right? And it's something that she produced like 3 months ago. So that's one of the things, like also a little bit related to branding. It's like, okay, if you keep on honing and, practicing your brand message, your branding, sooner or later people get it, and then they're gonna pick it up. So I would say just being consistent, just keep it out there. I would say the third part of your question, do you need to include people in it or products? Honestly, it's up to you, right? I do find it that when there's people involved in the video, they typically are a little bit more engaging. People might ask questions, they might view your video more, but it's not 100% necessary. Honestly, like we were talking about technology before, you could use ChatGPT to write your video description if you really want to. There's even a service, I have to find the link because I was looking into it as well, is like there's AI, like there's a computer system that will build out a avatar. So someone who looks almost 90% real to do all your talking. So you can actually type up the speech, and this video will be like an AI rendered person to talk about your business or whatever topic you want. And then I've seen other people who are like, brass tacks, super basic tech, They just put up their stock video or stock imagery up, and then they have a voiceover, and then that's their video. And then there's also videos that get a lot of views that way, right? It's just the static image and they're just talking through, like almost like a radio station. So it really depends on what you're comfortable with and what you want to display out there. But you don't have to always be like, oh, I need the latest greatest. I'll tell you from my own experience, like if you want perfection, you're never gonna actually post that video. So just put it out there and just always improve, because like, you know, just like all these top influencers and YouTubers, they all started somewhere, right? Even today, people are starting their channel and then slowly growing it. And then, you know, people like seeing that progression. It's like, oh, your first video was this way, but then, you know, 100 videos later, now you're like, you know, all improved and this, that, and the other thing. So that's my suggestion. And yeah, definitely put out videos if it could really help out your business.
Oh, to add on to that really quickly, I do think YouTube Shorts would be another format you should consider. Just very recently, we tried with one of our clients. Basically, what we did is the same content we posted on Instagram and TikTok.
Yep.
We re-uploaded to their YouTube channel, and organically gets a lot of views because they're trying to push for YouTube Shorts. So if you're too lazy, don't want to do full production or a longer format video, just upload whatever you're posting on the other platforms to YouTube, and it'll get a lot of exposure.
Awesome.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you both.
Mm.
Giuliano said, AI was mentioned earlier in the presentation. Where can you see the recent developments in AI taking the marketing world in the next 2 years? And what kind of automations do you foresee? So this is a little bit about what you were talking about, David. I didn't know if you want to expand a little more on that.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, as you know, there's something called the Moore's Law, which means technology capacity doubles every 2 years. So that's why our phones are getting smaller. We're able to do more with our laptops versus 10 years ago. You know, processing power, all that stuff is aiding in AI's development. So we're seeing, like I just mentioned, like now there's, you know, services where they can actually build out a avatar for you, you know, something that looks like us talking in a video, but it's completely computer generated. There's ChatGPT, which is a big thing in the last couple of months. You know, within 5 days, they have like were able to get 1 million people subscribed to them. So, you know, you can see that the viability of AI is not going anywhere, right? Very similar to Bitcoin, right? People were saying, oh, it's a fad, it's going to be here and then gone. I think for us as professionals in the field of marketing, we always looking for ways to be more efficient and more effective, right? If ChatGPT can help us minimize our weekly, you know, workload by like 10, 20%, because we can just say, hey, I need a, you know, copywriting paragraph or video description or ads copy, then, you know, we're going to utilize that. And agencies are going to utilize that. I think moving forward, it really just depends on how you want to utilize that technology, right? And be very, very specific on what areas you want it to aid you in, like maybe at least doing the grunt work, right? If you think back to the times of like how automobiles came about, it's like it replaced the horses and carriages and stuff. ChatGPT is going to replace some of the, I would say, mundane, routine kind of work that we do, right? Maybe it's proofing some copy or coming up with the bulk of the copy, but then you would need that human touch or like the contextual part of it, because sometimes, again, ChatGPT and all these AI programs, they're great, but they're not perfect, right? To a certain degree, they're like humans. So but they're going to be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, right? So if you needed to write a whole page, you know, website content, you can have it start out with ChatGPT, but then you would go back and just modify it, edit it. And that's where the human value still comes in, right? When people say, oh, well, why should I hire a copywriter when I could just hire a chat or pay for, you know, a cheap subscription to ChatGPT? the creativity part is still lacking in AI. Humans definitely, contextually make things better. If you looked at the past 100 years, all those ads were made by humans. So I would say, they're progressing really fast. But I think there's going to be that shift that you see where robots and computers and AI are going to be doing a lot of the kind of the grunt work that we don't like, and then leaves more brain power for the creativity, like thinking outside the box, doing something that's completely different and coming up with other great ideas. So I would say it definitely helps us make that progression versus like hinder us from doing quality work, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree. AI is going to be here and it's going to stick around forever. I think what it does is just helps us increase our work efficiency. So you're going to have less maintained, busy work. And again, I don't think some people say, right, AI can replace people, but I don't think that's true at all. Unless you could create an exact AI to each person with the same experiences and the same memories. If you copy paste my brain, then I guess that works, but I don't think that's happening yet. And I hope that doesn't happen in the next 50 years, but as long as we're around, I don't think that will be the case. So yeah.
Awesome. So I wanted to just ask if anybody else has another question. We have time for another 5 minutes of questions, but if not, we can move into the next phase. I did have a question actually. So Instagram subscriptions. I think many of us are on Instagram, and I get the sense that folks here are as well. Is it worth trying? Is it something that folks should get into? Is it work more successful for a product-oriented business, service-oriented business, or is it for every kind of business? Yeah.
I mean, if you have for me, if you ask me, basically we're talking about monetization. Even YouTubers that are on YouTube, some people choose not to monetize their content because they just want to have their content out there. But if you think you have if you think you have a fan base that'll pay for your knowledge, it doesn't hurt to give it a try. Because no matter, it doesn't matter, right? Whether it being monetized or not monetized, you're gonna put that content out there if you've already made it. And I do think monetization would be good for certain platforms. For certain industries. It really depends. It's really hard to say. If let's say you're a singer that wants to get paid for your music, I think it makes sense. But I don't know what the outcome would be, right? It really depends on how popular you are. If you're Taylor Swift, a lot of people pay for it. But if you're someone just starting out, you want your voice or your music to be heard. So if it was for me, I would have monetized right away. I'll get the popularity up and then be like, okay, you want to see more of me? Now you have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for someone who's in like the restaurant industry, what is like the absolute top 2 things that you have to be doing to get your marketing, like, to be on top of marketing or to just do something marketing your restaurant or your food business?
Reputation management. That's the foundation to everything. As a restaurant, I think your reputation matters a lot. If your rating on Google or on Yelp is 1 star, trust me, you're not going to get a lot of people walking your doors. I mean, So I think reputation matters so much, and really care about what customers think. You can't satisfy everybody, but you have to at least know where you can improve and improve your product and your service.
That's good. David, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think that like the reputation is definitely key, because like, in this digital, social media world that we live in, essentially everybody knows somebody, right? So whether whatever type of business you're in, you're always trying to put your best foot forward and then express that online. And then hopefully, you get picked up by PR, or you get picked up by like some, whatever Facebook group or community and whatnot, and they just resonate with your brand, and as they say, oh my God, like, this is a great product, you guys should use it. Yeah, like that's kind of every business
That's
owner's
part of
like,
marketing.
right,
That's
that's what
type
you're
of
building
marketing
upon.
referral. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we're all trying to build, right? Is that kind of that story, that kind of PR, that kind of storytelling where people just gravitates toward you or your product or your business, right? So I think it's like one of those critical points for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for answering that. I just wanted to bring us, oh, we have one more question. So how do you recover from missing the peak of a trend? Is it better to be late to a trend or skip it and wait for the next one? And will it hurt my brand if I'm oftentimes behind on the current trends?
I could take this one.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think it's to our favorite phrase, it depends, right? If your business or your community is like a lot of trends, it's like I wouldn't say it's a perfect bell curve, but definitely within the first couple of days to the first couple of weeks, people get that trend, right? And you can look at the whole year. And I used to work with an agency that we either create the trend or we are kind of preemptively, you know, adjusting content to say, okay, this trend may happen soon. Okay, how do we prepare, have things ready? And then once the trend happens, we are like, within the first day or first week, we're on it. The benefit of that is that you're going to get most of the exposure. Media outlets, when they're looking for brands to kind of create their article or they say, oh my God, this is a growing trend. And then it's like some of the local companies or local restaurants that are participating in this trend, and they will cherry pick. If you already garnered a lot of visibility, riding that trend wave, then you're gonna get that love, right? Then the what do you call it, the disadvantage of missing the trend, so now you're maybe a couple of weeks out or maybe a month out, and now you're seeing like grandparents doing the trend, and that's when you kind of miss the boat, right? Where you're like, okay, should I or should I not do it, right? I think it really depends, like, on your community. If they're already still, harping on this trend, then there's no what do you call it, disadvantage of your company just doing something to kind of follow the trend. But if it's something that, like, if it's in fashion, right, and those trends kind of leave fairly quickly, then I wouldn't be one of those kind of late to it, where say it's 2-3 months afterwards and you're like, oh, let's do this because now we're ready. That's why, like, you should always be kind of prepared or have assets, like creative assets, kind of more or less ready, so that when a trend happens and you're like, oh, okay, I remember I created this and this will be perfect for that. Like, every year there's always things that happen that you can know that they trend on social media. Like the Super Bowl is happening in 2 weeks, so that's not something that usually is like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. The Super Bowl is going to happen, and the two teams that are going to play, and this may potentially happen, so you could prepare stuff around that and be like, oh, if this thing happens, I'll use this asset. If this thing happens, I'm going to use this asset. So that's how a lot of big brands are preparing for big events like that. For trends that we typically is not seasonal, it's not on the calendar, you just need to build out your brand and those content assets to be prepared. If a certain trend happens, then you're like, okay, let me try to fit what I have already made into that trend. So yeah, I don't know if that really helps you answer that, but I would say, at the end of the day, you just have to be prepared.
Yeah, I want to quickly add to that. I think being authentic is what gets people, and you don't always have to follow trends. We're living in a day and age of, TikTok, the trendy music, it's different every day. it's so exhausting having to catch every single trend. Come on, like, can you imagine? Like, that's just so exhausting. Internally at New Media, we do a social talk where we talk about trends, but after a year of social talk, we realize like it's just too much, right? And I just listened to a podcast, but that talked about trends. Personally, I do think you don't have to ride on every single trend wave. Maybe from time to time, if a trend really resonates with you and your personal brand, yes, you could do it. But most of the times, I think knowing who you are, be authentic, is gonna make you more successful than being on trend all the time. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you for asking that question and both answering it. So I wanted to bring our attention to the conclusion of our webinar. This was very insightful, at least for me from my end, and I'm sure our guests also feel that way as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is powered by the Small Business Association, and through the CNPP Community Navigator Pilot Program, we're able to offer these types of trainings. And so Ada and David were both saying that they provide one-on-one counseling, consulting sessions, and that's free for anyone who is in this room, free for folks who are interested in participating in CNPP services. And so these are just some of the topics that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention here. Our goal is to serve underserved Pan-Asian American businesses and entrepreneurs with critical services and assistance, one-on-one counseling being one of them, access to capital, obviously technical assistance, whatever that might be. So whatever questions anyone might have, please, I encourage you to sign up through our US PAC CNPP program. It is a pilot program, so it is actually going to end in November. However, if all things, work out well, and there is still funding, this will continue. So I would urge you to please take advantage of this right now. And at this point, just a reflection, I'm giving you all homework here. What are you taking away from this webinar training that will help you usher in these fresh marketing ideas to reach your audience, or to reach your customers, or to reach your following in the new year? What are you taking away from what Ada and David have provided in this webinar? And that's pretty much it. Please stay connected with us. Thank you, Ada. Thank you, David. Thank you, New Media. We're so glad to have done this and collaborate on this webinar. So I'm going to stop the recording right now because we do have another question. So